News Lagos.
Joining us to discuss this is member Special Purpose Committee of the NDLEA's CCEO. He is also the CEO Compassionate Care Recovery Initiative and former DG Kadam, Dr. Dokun Adedeji. Good morning. Happy New Month, by the way.
Same to you. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
When you listen to the NDLEA boss there, you can see that this is a thorough job that was done up to the fact that we could trace bank accounts, and then we were able to identify the warehouse, the individuals. Talk to us, because you have been working closely with the NDLEA on these matters.
You see, so that it doesn't seem like one is grandstanding, I think this is the best time for Nigeria in terms of interdiction of drug addicts, particularly since General Marwa came. Look, I tell people when they are surprised that I'm not. He was governor of Lagos State. Everywhere the man has been very painstaking in the things he does. He's a particular person about details. And he doesn't talk anyhow. He takes his time, and he set up a machinery now in NDLEA that I hope thereafter, after him, we can continue. And then the intelligence unit is super. And so these are people who don't make noise. That's why they could go behind, get all the information you're hearing. Honestly, I'm not surprised from what I've seen of him and the work we've done together. I know this is what he can do, and he does it very well.
So one now wonders, like almost every day, like for instance, we get a dosage of not drugs, but stories every weekend.
Oh yeah.
Every weekend from the NDLEA, you know, we get to receive every weekend, and then you tend to see so many people that were arrested, you know, stuffs that were seized and all of that, and the arrests that were made and all of that, and it kept happening. I mean, it keeps happening every day. Why is it that, you know, some of these things are being done and then without serving as deterrent for others who really want to go into these things? Looks like they are bent on doing it.
No. You see, one thing that I want you to know: greed, avarice, and the tendency to be in the light of news and big money is why people do it. And they'll say to themselves, if I do it, I get away. Do it second, I get away. They never want to stop because of the money keeps multiplying. It's the attitude, the Nigerian attitude about greed. And you know, until we come to a situation in this country, I keep talking about value system. We get to a point in which we interrogate how people make their money and how they become so stupendously rich without saying what they really do. You know, a billionaire or something, what does he do for a living? These are some of the things that people do. Do you know that Nigerians sit down to import this thing like tramadol? And a man in VGC was caught by NDLEA who had a whole mansion dedicated to this. If he doesn't get caught, he goes around town, maybe with siren, maybe with flashy cars, and spends money as if he minted it. And then why would people, young people or other people, not sit and say, oh, I can? Or somebody who works for a baron sees how the baron has made money, and he says to himself, if I can make money for the baron, why not make for myself? So until we get our acts together as a people and then get our value system back in place, we will run the risk of what you see and hear.
But are you concerned that Lagos is becoming that huge market where this consignment of illicit drugs are coming in?
You know, one thing that I want people to know is Lagos is central to Nigeria. When you see COVID, it's Lagos. When you see, what was it that killed a lot of people, that you see it's Lagos, because it's the first, and it's the port as well. And it's also the airport and all the rest, and a lot of people living here. If you look, the statistics from UNODC will tell you clearly why this is like so. When the zonal breakdown was done of drug prevalence reviews, they found the Southwest was 22.4%. And Lagos State in Southwest was 33%.
My goodness.
And this was 2017, coming to 2018. When Mr. Stopp spoke in 2020, during the World Drug Day, he said that figure had gone to between 20 and 85 million of users in Nigeria. And then so you must know, Lagos, therefore, that's why Lagos needs to step up in virtually everything they do, because they become the signature of consideration of everything. And the same thing with drugs. We know that Lagos is central to their business. The seaport is there, the airport is there, the route to Semi and all those things. And look, these people are desperate to find every available route to do the business because of what it brings to them. So it's just that, you know, sometime, was it December last year or September last year, a huge consumption of 2.1 tons of uncut heroin, that is pure heroin, was found in Ikorodu in a warehouse. So the thing is, this is something that also the people must be involved in, to give information to NDLEA. Tip off. Because these people are not ghosts. They operate from certain areas we know, that people know, who live with them. So it's just a matter of giving the information. And you know, there's a toll-free number. You can call NDLEA. You don't have to mention your name. You don't have to mention anything at all. You just give them information. And they keep it quiet, and then they move.
But the unfortunate thing is that if there are no buyers, there can't be, you know, sellers. But all the same, I'm not sure whether how much effective our laws have been in, you know, stemming the tide against, you know, drug peddling and all of that. The Senate 2 days ago stepped down a bill to confine to life sentence persons involved in drug-related offenses. How do you react to this kind of story? Do you feel that the kind of punishment we meted out to them is not enough?
You know, there's something we're beginning to change in the perspective about drugs. We've seen it as a public health issue, not as a criminal issue, drug usage. But people who carry, who sell, who are barons, deserve to be punished. But I have found out, in my own little experience, that it is not the length of punitive action you take that's important. You see, the thing is, change the value system, punish people, seize everything they've ever worked for, so that people don't steal, they don't do that, and then you steal about 100 million when the guy has about 2 billion. Nothing really much has been done. I would suggest, in my own understanding, that we should punish barons, not users, which is one of the things that General BubaMarwa is saying. Because if you punish the user, that is double jeopardy. You are punishing the victim. Because users are victims. If you want to know, nobody wakes up to say, I want to be an addict. It happens, and it can happen to anyone. So let us punish those who import, those who sell, and we can grade their punishment. And also the law has to be adjusted to take into consideration these levels of involvement, so that you don't just catch somebody who's maybe 2 kg, and then you put him in 10 years, and then you catch somebody who brings it from the UK or brings him from America, you give him 5 years. Our judges, as the judicial system must be attuned to that which, so there must be a synergy between what NDLEA is doing, what they intend to achieve, and then what judiciary should do to complement those activities. Without that, you know, in this way, it's not that there are no laws. There are laws, but there are too many ways in which you can sidestep the laws. Corruption is one.
Absolutely.
So if you don't deal with that, and you know, one thing Jeremiah has been lucky, not maybe lucky, but maybe very pragmatic about it. When he got in there, he knew the low areas where people's enthusiasm have. And so he worked at it. He's got a lot of concession from government. They're building barracks. They're improving the welfare. They've allowed him to employ more people into the system, so which reduces the stress and then gives more room to activity. I think it's a lot of factors that might come together, not just looking at the punishment. Punishment is good, but we must say who should be punished, what is the level of punishment, and what does this mean? I tell you something, there's no level of punishment that will cause deterrence in drug trade, even if you kill them.
Really?
I'm telling you, we kill for armed robbery.
Yeah.
People still rob.
Right.
We see all of them, we give them life judgment to kidnapping, but they're still operating. There must be something so lucrative that encourages an daring to say, I will do this, whatever it brings to me. So it's just also what it comes back to. That's what I'm always saying all the time.
The root.
That the
Value.
The government, look, the NOA has to be strengthened and then bring it to focus at this time. Young people are seeing these things. They're seeing the money people are making from it. Are you deterring them? It will be difficult if we don't begin to change and change the emphasis, the paradigm shift about affluence, about money. When we grew up, it wasn't like this. But today, anybody can own a car overnight.
Absolutely. We see, because social media is here, we see a lot of persons, just display affluence, even in music videos, in movies. So I'm wondering how the NDLEA is bringing all of this person who are stakeholders to ensure that we begin to speak to the minds of young persons. If you look at the papers this morning, one of the suggestions the House of Representatives is making is that they want mandatory drug tests for secondary school students. These are the age brackets that you find a lot of people who use these things, who are enticed to do these things, and who actually go into this business because of what they see on social media.
You know, I'm worried about profiling, about stereotyping people.
Right.
The survey that was done by UNODC in 2017 was a survey between 15 and 64. It will shock you to know that 8-year-olds use drugs today. So if we begin to look, I understand, even in the preponderance of use, they found that the age bracket as of significant use is 25 to 39, which is productive age.
Yeah.
Then we can say we see young people use it because you see them more often. People in the offices use, professionals use. So I do not agree totally with the House of Rep to say mandatory for students. When people are clamoring that anyone aspiring to public office, anyone in that category should have mandatory tests, they said no. So why will you demand it for others and you refuse to take it for yourself? Leadership, you should have said, you know, when they were doing the COVID test in America, leaders volunteer themselves, test me, so that we know. And that was what Professor Ransom Kuti did when it came to HIV/AIDS.
Right.
So why can we not say to leaders, show us the way, do the test? But the thing that I'm saying is, if we say do test, to what end? Is it for punitive reasons or for rehabilitative purposes, helping people? Because many of people who use these drugs use it for social reasons, for one reason or another, and not because they're addicts. That's why they can still do the things they do. So it's important that we understand that.
But how about working with stakeholders, like I mentioned earlier?
Oh, yes.
So, stars, celebrities, and all musicians who use these things in their videos and all of that.
You know, I must tell you that it is under consideration and some underground work is going on to work with some. You know, there was a time one gentleman volunteered himself. I want to be careful mentioning people's name. Went to them and said, look, I'd like to work with you. If you like that, you know, you can't call them and say, come and work with me. People may say, is it because he uses drugs? You know, stigma and discrimination they're very powerful tools of ignorance that people use so that they can. People then don't seek treatment. But I know that there's a lot of work going on to work with artists, to work with Nollywood, to work with them. Because if you remember, there was a lady called Lola Fanika Williams who did a feature on drugs so many years ago, Mind Bending. I'm sure we're looking at those kind of things so that the collaboration can, because they are the role models.
Absolutely.
To young people. And if they keep shooting those videos showing them perfect, young people think it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
But it will be a deliberate work. I know for sure that work is going on.
I'm worried about those who use unconventional means to, get high, quote unquote. There is a particular video of some people who break into the cemetery. They didn't even allow the rest to, to sleep. Get into the cemetery, break their dry bones, dry it up again, and then mix it with some substances in order to get high. And then you begin to see zombies on the streets and everywhere. Could you talk to us about some other things that the NDLEA, you think the NDLEA is doing to also ensure that some other unconventional ways of getting high that people are exploring, so that we can, stem the tide of this, craziness?
You see, I'm also again worried when we throw everything at the feet of NDLEA. The drug issue is so mammoth that NDLEA alone cannot, but they need a contribution of people. like families, like schools, like corporate organizations, like the media. And then so we speak about those things. We let it be open in there, and then people then make informed choices. Let me tell you, I'm glad you said unconventional. Do you know there's one guy who sang about something about science students?
Yeah.
Would you believe that people actually sit down and concoct all kinds of things, particularly during COVID, because they couldn't go out to go get. So they began. One young guy who came for rehabilitation told me that even in a government facility, they didn't have food. You know what they did? They got dongoyaro, leaves of dongoyaro, soaked it in methylated spirit, and they gave them a high. I know a young man who went to the wall and scraped the spirogyra.
You don't want to mention
Yeah, so that you not give them,
sorry.
yes.
Okay, you know, those things are there. But it is from the DDR, Drug Demand Reduction Unit of NDLEA is being strengthened. So they're in schools, they're in universities, they're in different places, and they're willing to be invited to come and share awareness and all those education so that people can know. Again, as you said, you also must be careful the kind of information you share to some people. So those are the things being worked at. And the more we talk about it like you're doing, then the more exposure we give, the more awareness we create, and then people will be aware of these things, and then we desist. But I can tell you it'll be difficult to have a zero use. But
there are calls for the amendment of the NDLEA Act to include all other drugs and substances, including liquor, as prohibited.
We would like that to happen. But let me tell you quickly, it will be difficult to know the whole gamut of substances available for use. How do you legislate against pit latrine, soak away? How do you? Or some naturally occurring substances like, I don't want to mention as you said.
Yeah.
But the thing is, yes, we can amend and then see how do these things affect use and how people can desist from it. But legislation is good, but I don't want us to sit too much on legislation without a groundswell of awareness. It is then people can make informed choices. You understand what I'm saying? The things that people produce, it's every day. It's every day different things are happening. That even as I sit down here, and I'm sure with NDLEA, we don't know the whole. We just hear they're using this, and then we sit down to study it, and then you find through that it's psychoactive.
But what do you think is, causing this craze and crave for highness that is driving people to look for these things?
I say to people, for every user has his own reason. One thing that we have seen high up there is the issue of family. As long as the family is so disparate as it is, as long as family union, family situation is so, today there are all kinds of families. Right. Some people live together, yet they are not together. They don't even know what happens with their children. Some people live separately for good reasons. And because of that, and also this availability, you see, these things, the availability, the affordability also aid. You can get for as low as 15 naira, maybe the alcohol. The alcohol bit will be difficult to classify, even internationally, because of economic reasons. See what has happened to NAFDAC, saying we want to ban sachet.
Yes.
And there's so much uproar.
Yeah.
But the thing that people forget, we cannot begin to look at economic consideration to then close our eyes to the health implications for the future. We must sit at the round table, let people understand. The sachet, while NAFDAC is against it, you make it easily available to even young people. But if it's in bottles, it will take you time to have the money to go buy a bottle, and then at a particular age, they won't sell to you. But if it's so available that you can check all the streets, side streets, the motor parks. It used to be 20 naira, it's now 50. There are some that's gone to 100 naira. People can still afford it. Look, I think we as a people begin to understand. Yes, people say, what? People will not lose their job. I don't think so, because they say don't sell sachet drink. You still sell your alcohol. But the thing is, you make sachet, because the danger it does, the international body also cannot categorize alcohol,
Right.
but it's one of the drug we call socially acceptable.
Okay.
And make it easy for people to use.
We'll have to leave this conversation here now. There's so much to be said, but so much has been said. Must thank you, Dr. Dokun Adedeji, for your time on the program.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Right.
Thank you.
And we